In the year 2004, Blockbuster Video was untouchable. 9,000 stores across the world, 60,000 employees, $6 billion in annual revenue. In every suburb, in every city, on nearly every main street in America, there was a Blockbuster. It wasn't just a store. It was Friday night. It was the smell of popcorn and carpet. It was the argument about which movie to rent. It was the entire concept of home entertainment. And in 2010, just 6 years later, it was gone. This is the story of how the most dominant entertainment company in America threw away every chance it had to survive. Not once, not twice, but 3 times. And how a tiny startup with no stores, no staff, and 47 subscribers almost didn't survive long enough to replace them. Before we talk about the fall, you need to understand what Blockbuster actually was. In 1994, Viacom, one of the most powerful media companies on earth, bought Blockbuster for $8.4 billion. $8.4 billion, that's how valuable this company was. At its peak, Blockbuster was opening a new store every 17 hours. By the time you finished your workday and went home, another Blockbuster had opened somewhere in the world. Their business model was simple and brutally effective. Rent you a movie for a few dollars, charge you a late fee if you brought it back late. Those late fees alone, generated $800 million a year. That is not a typo. $800 million from people who forgot to return their tape on time. So when this company collapsed, and it did collapse completely, it wasn't because the business was weak. It was because the people running it made decisions so catastrophically wrong that film schools now teach them as cautionary tales. Here's what happened. David Cook opened the first Blockbuster Video in Dallas, Texas in October 1985. The concept was borrowed from small mom-and-pop video rental shops that were everywhere in the 80s. But Cook did something different. He went big. 8,000 tapes in his first store. His competitors had a few hundred. He also computerized everything. Inventory tracking, customer records, what was rented, when it was due back, who owed late fees. In 1985, this was radical. Most video stores ran on index cards. It worked. Within 2 years, Blockbuster had gone from 1 store to 15. Then a man named Wayne Huizenga walked in. Huizenga was one of America's most aggressive business builders. He'd already built Waste Management into a billion-dollar company and would later build AutoNation. He saw Blockbuster and bought it in 1987. Then he expanded it like a virus. By 1989, just 2 years later, Blockbuster had 700 stores and was opening new locations faster than McDonald's. Huizenga's strategy was simple: buy every competitor, open in every city, and become impossible to avoid. By 1993, there were 3,500 Blockbuster stores worldwide. The company was generating $1 billion a year. That's when Viacom bought it. $8.4 billion, the deal of the decade. Blockbuster was, by every measure, a monopoly. Not a technical monopoly, just the kind that happens when you are everywhere. You have everything, and no one can match your scale. And then, in 1997, a man named Reed Hastings got a late fee. Reed Hastings returned Apollo 13 6 weeks late to his local Blockbuster. The late fee was $40. He was embarrassed. He was annoyed. And on the drive home, he started thinking, why does renting a movie work like this? Why is there a penalty? Why can't it work like a gym membership? Pay a flat fee every month, watch whatever you want. No late charges, no due dates. That question became Netflix. And what happened next is one of the most studied and most avoidable business failures in modern history. It's the year 2000. Netflix has been operating for 3 years. They are not doing well. The dot-com bubble has just burst. Netflix has a few 100,000 subscribers. They're burning through money, and Reed Hastings is desperate. The company is weeks away from running out of cash. So he flies to Dallas to meet with Blockbuster's CEO, John Antioco, and makes an offer. Buy Netflix right now for $50 million to a company with 9,000 stores and $6 billion in annual revenue. That is a rounding error. That is what Blockbuster made in 3 days. John Antioco and his team listened to the pitch, and then, according to people in the room, they laughed. They actually laughed Reed Hastings out of the building. Netflix, they said, was a niche product, a gimmick for tech people who didn't want to drive to a store. Real customers wanted real stores, real selection, real staff. They passed. Reed Hastings flew home, cut costs, survived, and started building the streaming technology that would eventually replace every one of those 9,000 stores. The $50 million company they laughed out of the room is worth, today, over $200 billion. For a few years after that meeting, Blockbuster actually tried to compete. In 2004, John Antioco made a bold decision. Blockbuster would launch its own online DVD rental service, Blockbuster Online, to compete directly with Netflix, and he would eliminate late fees. This was actually the right move. Late fees were the single most hated thing about Blockbuster. Customers resented them. Surveys showed they were the #1 reason people went to independent video stores instead. Eliminating them cost Blockbuster $400 million in 1 year. Revenue dropped sharply, but something else happened. New customers flooded in. People who had avoided Blockbuster for years because of the fees came back. Blockbuster Online grew to 2 million subscribers. They were genuinely competing with Netflix, who had 4 million at the time. The gap was closing, and then Carl Icahn showed up. Carl Icahn is an activist investor, one of the most feared in American business history. He buys large stakes in companies, forces his way onto the board, and demands changes that increase short-term profits, regardless of long-term strategy. He had bought a large stake in Blockbuster, and he hated the late fee elimination. It was costing too much money too fast. Icahn fought Antioco publicly. He questioned the strategy at every shareholder meeting. He pushed for Antioco's removal, and he won. In 2007, John Antioco, the man who had actually built a credible plan to survive, was forced out of Blockbuster. His replacement was a man named Jim. Jim Keyes had previously run 7-Eleven, not a video company, a convenience store chain. His view of Blockbuster's problems was the opposite of Antioco's. The online strategy was a distraction. The future was in the stores, physical locations. That's what customers wanted. In 2008, he gave an interview to The Motley Fool, and he said this, and this quote became famous. He said, "I've been frankly confused by this fascination that everybody has with Netflix. Netflix doesn't really have or do anything that we can't or don't already do ourselves." Then he said, "I don't see Redbox or Netflix as a threat." This was 2008. Netflix had 8.5 million subscribers. Streaming was beginning. The iPhone had launched the year before. Keyes canceled Blockbuster's online operations, cut the digital budget, refocused on physical stores. He also brought back late fees. Everything Antioco had spent $400 million to undo, Keyes reversed. The customers who had come back left again. Meanwhile, Netflix launched its streaming service. No DVD, no store, no shipping. Just click and watch. Blockbuster had one last chance. In 2008, they could have bought Circuit City, the electronics retailer, to turn stores into digital entertainment hubs. They passed. They could have partnered with TiVo to build a streaming box. They passed. Every exit ramp on the road to bankruptcy, Blockbuster drove past. By 29, the math had become brutal. Blockbuster was losing hundreds of millions of dollars per quarter. The stores were emptying. Customers were either streaming on Netflix or renting from Redbox kiosks for $1 per night, compared to Blockbuster's $4 or $5 rental fee. The debt load from the Viacom acquisition, the $8.4 billion purchase from 1994, had never been paid off. Interest payments were crushing the company while revenue was shrinking. In September 2010, Blockbuster filed for bankruptcy. It was one of the largest retail bankruptcies in American history. 9,000 stores, 60,000 jobs. Gone. The following year, Dish Network bought what was left of Blockbuster at auction for $320 million. To put that in context, Viacom had paid $8.4 billion just 16 years earlier. Dish tried to revive the brand as a streaming service. It didn't work. By 2013, the last corporate-owned Blockbuster stores closed permanently. There is one Blockbuster left in the entire world. It's in Bend, Oregon. It's an independently owned franchise. It has become a tourist attraction. People drive hours to visit it. They sell merchandise. They rent movies. One store. So what actually killed Blockbuster? The easy answer is Netflix. But that's not quite right. Netflix didn't kill Blockbuster. Blockbuster killed Blockbuster. Netflix just showed up in time to bury it. Here's what actually happened. In 3 lessons. Lesson 1. Arrogance is the most expensive mistake in business. When Reed Hastings walked into that Dallas office in 2000 and offered to sell for $50 million, Blockbuster's team laughed. They laughed because they were 10 billion times bigger. They laughed because the idea that a DVD mail company could threaten 9,000 physical stores seemed absurd. That laughter cost them everything. The companies that survive disruption are not the ones who are never threatened. They're the ones who take the threat seriously while they still have the resources to respond. Blockbuster had the money. They had the brand. They had $800 million a year in late fees alone. They could have bought Netflix, built their own streaming service, or partnered with every technology company trying to crack digital video. Instead, they laughed. Lesson 2. Short-term thinking destroys long-term companies. When Carl Icahn pushed out John Antioco, he was protecting quarterly profits. The late fee elimination was expensive. Blockbuster Online was expensive. But it was working. Icahn's intervention cost Blockbuster its only viable path to survival. This happens constantly in business. An investor who needs short-term returns forces a company to abandon the long-term strategy that would have saved it. The lesson for every business: be very careful who you let onto your board, because the people who control the board control the strategy. And the wrong strategy, even briefly, can be irreversible. Lesson 3. Your biggest revenue stream can become your biggest trap. $800 million in late fees. That was the business model. That was the profit engine. But it was also the thing customers hated most about Blockbuster. And it was the thing that made them open to alternatives. Any alternative that didn't charge them for being 3 days late. Netflix's early pitch wasn't "we have better movies." It was, "we will never charge you a late fee." That single promise pulled millions of customers away from Blockbuster before streaming even existed. When your best revenue source is something your customers resent paying, you are not building loyalty. You are building the market for your own. Reed Hastings stepped down as Netflix CEO in 2023 after 25 years. He remained chairman. Netflix, the company Blockbuster could have bought for $50 million, was worth over $200 billion at its peak. John Antioco, the CEO who actually had a plan to save Blockbuster, left in 2007 and largely disappeared from the public business world. He gave a few interviews over the years saying he believed Blockbuster could have survived if his strategy had been allowed to continue. Jim Keyes, the CEO who canceled the digital strategy and said Netflix wasn't a threat, went on to various board positions after Blockbuster's bankruptcy. He has rarely spoken publicly about the collapse. Carl Icahn, whose activist intervention helped accelerate Blockbuster's death, lost around $250 million on his Blockbuster investment. And the last Blockbuster in Bend, Oregon? It's doing fine. It rents movies. It sells t-shirts that say, "The Last Blockbuster." It has a dedicated social media following and its own documentary. Sometimes the only way to survive is to be the last one standing. Blockbuster had every advantage: money, scale, brand, infrastructure, and $800 million a year in profit. They had the chance to buy their replacement for $50 million. They said no. They had a CEO who understood the future. They removed him. They had a plan that was working. They canceled it. 3 chances, 3 decisions, 1 outcome. If this story taught us anything, it's that size is not protection. Market dominance is not safety. The most dangerous moment for any company is when they feel untouchable, because that's exactly when they stop watching the door. Next week, we're looking at another company that felt untouchable, until it wasn't. A company that was worth $47 billion, that had offices on 5 continents, that was named the most innovative company in America 6 years in a row, and that collapsed in under 12 months. Subscribe so you don't miss it.